was born fully sighted, but I contracted cancer of the retina when I was 9 months old.
Oh, okay.
So I had to have my eyes surgically removed, and so I wear prosthetics now. I had been completing interviews along with all my other fellow students as we wrapped up our final year of journalism school, and it was becoming increasingly frustrating. We were now into April. School was due to wrap up in a few weeks. Internships were going to be getting underway in May. And I happened to drop into the office of a professor who, at the time, was running the Ryerson. And I had been the news editor on the Ryerson the previous semester. And he had expressed open skepticism about my capacity to do that job. And I had said, okay, well, can I give it a shot? He said, okay, if I can reserve the right to reassign you if it's not working out. I said, all right. Fine. It's fairly par for the course with being a blind person in journalism. There's just always a certain amount of skepticism to overcome. And I was telling him about my abortive job hunt. So this fabulously cantankerous prof, who I just love, flew into a rage on my behalf and goes, "This is ridiculous. All people need to do is give you a chance, etc. Let me talk to someone." I said, okay. Sure, whatever you want to do. He marched into my next class and told me then to send my resume to someone at Canadian Press when I got home. Turns out I had sent in an application when Canadian Press was doing its original round of intern hires several months before. As it happened, though, this professor friend of mine had contacted them right around the time that they had decided to add a couple of extra positions to the internship program. So I did. I sent my resume in, and I was fairly soon called in and asked to come for an interview the following week. And I went in for that interview and was confronted with 4 people. And I'm going, oh my God, all right, this is a pretty intense panel. So they brought me in. They were in the midst of a provincial cabinet shuffle, but they all still came in and interviewed me for about an hour. And in hindsight, that's a lot of time to give up in the middle of a cabinet shuffle. And they asked me all kinds of things, typical interview type questions, and asking about my portfolio that I'd accumulated at the Financial Post. But they were also asking very, very candid and fair questions about the degree of accommodation I would require, the sort of technology that I used, that sort of stuff. So it was a really great conversation. I felt that they were receptive to things I was saying. I felt that they were really engaged in how one would make this work if they decided to go that route. The interview ended with one of my interviewers down on the floor petting my guide dog, like fully, like jacket on, rubbing the dog's belly. That's it. So that was kind of nice. And I recall leaving that interview and speaking to a family member later in the day and saying, if I don't get this, I don't think I'm going to get anything, because this went about as well as it could possibly go, and if it doesn't work out, I suspect there may be some logistical hurdles to a blind reporter that I simply can't overcome. Perhaps that was a bit fatalistic at the time, but that was how I was feeling. And very fortunately for me, I only had to wait about 2 hours. They called me that afternoon and offered me a summer internship. It's intense, as always. There's a very steep learning curve, but I was hooked from the start. I've always really liked the fast pace of a newsroom. This is a particularly convivial newsroom, which is really nice. So it was not only interesting and challenging, but really fun to work here. And I've been fortunate in that 11 years down the road, that's still true.